Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. So there I was, which is how all great aviation tales begin. This is Fig, and this is episode 71 with Taco, entitled, They Were Gonna Die Anyway.
An amazing, well, I won't even spoil what that's about yet. We'll tease it a little more here in a minute, but oh man, was that a great opening story.
I know. I was like, oh God, if this is how this is going to go. And it did.
Oh boy, is this great.
And that's the way it went.
Yeah, that's how it went.
Yeah. Some of the admin stuff, Fig. We've got now 3 levels. Count them, 3. Actually, 4.
Cuatro.
At Patreon. Right now, you can be at sotherawas.us/Patreon. You can become a pilot, a section leader, leading 2 aircraft, a division leader, leading 4 aircraft, or a tanker aircraft commander to keep our tanks full and the engines running to keep these shows coming to you. And with each of the 4 levels of membership over at Patreon, you can get something. With all levels, you get some of the background stuff that we don't put out on the website as part of the podcast. For instance, we have an interview with Punchy talking about how he got his call sign. And within the next week, I plan on putting up Jungle Jim Ross's interview, which was about 50 to 55 minutes long from about 15 years ago. We mentioned him a few shows back. He recently passed away, but was a legendary Blue Angel lead and opposing solo.
That'll be a good one, too.
It really is a good one. Apologies up front for the sound on that. But if you decide to become a section leader, we're going to send you a koozie. If you decide to become a division leader, we're going to send you a mug. And if you decide to become a tanker aircraft commander, you get anything you want out of our merch store. We'll give you any one item in our merch store, and we'll send that to you. We got to thank a new aircraft tanker commander this week, none other than Sal Marinello. I asked him, did he want a dedication, a call sign? What is it he would like? And he said, I just would like to send this dedication out to all the men and women who have served their country in the armed forces, no matter what they did in the military, and served a higher purpose than themselves. At great personal cost, they signed a contract that they would protect and defend the United States and the freedoms of all Americans. Thank God we have men and women willing to do so.
Amen.
Amen. Sal. God bless you. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Sal.
We had a couple other really good emails over the past. We get some good ones, but these 2 were really good. Fig, you've got one from another one of our Patreon supporters.
Yeah. So it reads, I just wanted to let you guys know, So There I Was is playing almost constantly and religiously whenever I can have my phone out at work, at home, doing yard work with my earbuds in, and of course on road trips. I hope you guys are able to genuinely take the time to realize how important this podcast is to so many. I know it is an absolute blast for you guys each and every single time you sit down with a guest to be able to just simply enjoy yourselves and have a good time talking to old or new friends. The podcast goes deeper than that as well. Though it's an opportunity for guests to sit down, have a drink, laugh, and connect with people who share similar experiences, it is a voice for those who have a cause that need to be heard, such as Captain Williams' fight for the Medal of Honor. It's an outlet for those to heal by being able to tell others how they feel and what they went through in order to relieve the pressure and burden of their lives, like Chaz. It's an historical record for the stories of heroism and perseverance that may otherwise go unnoticed, as told by guests like One Eye. For the viewers/listeners, it is that and so much more. For me personally, not only are the stories just a downright thrill to listen to, it's also a major boost to my mental health. When I first picked up the podcast at the start of last summer, I thought it was just going to be a show to listen to once in a while to hear some cool pilot stories. When episode 1 kicked off and I got my first listen, I was hooked. I've been fighting depression since I got out of the Marine Corps, and I am just now finally working on myself to do something about it, and it's genuinely all thanks to you guys. Wow. Yeah. The podcast got me out of my slump. and overflowed my soul with happiness and joy. The stories allow me to connect with my passion, all while pissing my pants from laughing so hard. You guys are absolute best, and as stated, you are doing what you are doing is so incredibly important for the community as a whole, and for me personally. I cannot thank you enough for all that you do.
Wow.
Oh, there's more. Should I continue reading?
Yeah, please.
This is a very long email just for me to send you guys a picture of an accomplishment I achieved while listening to the podcast. But I also wanted to take the time to let you know, while for you guys it's a great time to talk and listen to guests for an hour or two, about 163 hours in Lawman's case, every interview makes it so much more of an impact that you may realize in the moment. I know the importance and significance certainly isn't lost on you. There probably wouldn't even be a podcast in the first place. I just hope you are able to sit back sometime and let it all sink in, whether it's embracing your own happiness for what you've personally achieved with the podcast, or realizing the larger impact on every guest and listener you have reached. All of those reasons and many more make me so beyond grateful to not just only be a Patreon member, but the first Patreon member. Now, with all that being said, enjoy my milestone screenshot. This was where he sent us a picture of his where he was listening to the podcast, which was
right.
a road trip through Vermont. Thanks again for everything you do. You guys are the best. I will see you soon live with Doc. Can't wait. Don't sit on the collective and check 6. A very signed a very loyal listener and supporter.
Right.
Wow.
That kind of email is overwhelming, right? I mean, it just really is.
It's humbling.
If you wonder if anybody's listening and then you get an email like that, you go, wow.
Yeah.
But it's not us. It's the guests who are doing all the heavy lifting. We're just providing them a
platform to tell their stories.
Yeah.
And boy, we hear good ones every week.
It is amazing, and there's more good ones this week to follow. So thank you so much. We're honored and humbled to get letters like that. Fig, I got a question for you before I read this next letter. You ever been struck by lightning while you were flying?
Yes, I have. Scared the living shit right out of me.
Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying, right? I did one night too, and I was in an MD-11, and we were at about 6,000 or 7,000 feet. We were on downwind getting into home plate, and it was like the surface of the sun and a shotgun blast were in the cockpit with us all of a sudden, and everything was gone blank. All the instruments, I'm like, oh, if the engines are running, okay, so that's good. And slowly I realized it was my night vision that was lost, not the...
you got your cones, rods, or whatever they were bleached completely.
Yes. Yeah. So they all started fading back in, but everything worked flawlessly. And that's not by accident. Airplanes get hit by lightning fairly frequently. As terrifying as it can be, I'm so grateful that people like this have written in. This Jen actually wrote into the Mac Geek Gab, which is another show I co-host with. And the co-host on that one, Dave Hamilton, you might have heard me mention his name once or twice on this show.
Oh, yeah.
He seems to be a lightning rod. His equipment gets pounded all the time. And so that's what prompted this gent, Patrick Madigan, to write in and told us a lot about what he did. Well, he was working at the Pratt & Whitney Wilgoose facility, and he said he was about 24, so that was almost 40 years ago. He says, we'd set up our FADEC, and a FADEC is FADEC. That's a full authority digital engine control. And instead of a carburetor or something similar, jet engines don't have carburetors, but the fuel control that supplies fuel to the engine, when you do throttle slams, you move too much, too little, you could flame a jet engine out back in the old days, and the computers all control it now. The digital engine controllers go, okay, you gave me full throttle, but you don't really want that. I'll give you what you want. And it's a lot of, what would you call it, PFM? A lot of magic going on back there.
There's a lot of PFM in that little black box, for
Yes,
sure.
there is. Yeah. So he was working on the FADEC, and they were working on it for the F-100 engine for the F-16 and 15. And in the Will Goose facility, they set up a complete Pratt & Whitney 2037 engine with the engine electronic controller mounted on engine mounted just as if it was on the nacelle of an aircraft. So the engine was completely functional and hung from a stand that mimicked an actual engine mount on the plane. And he says, then we built a machine that I think was called a MACHS generator. He spells that MACHS, which is a bank of large capacitors capable of simulating a full-scale lightning strike. He said, we charged it up for about a half a day and finally discharged it through the engine. The strike was louder than a shotgun and everything failed. We panicked. He says, except we actually blew up all of the monitoring equipment 50 yards away. He says, but the FADEC worked perfectly. He says, we purchased a bunch of fiber optic cables to isolate the discharge from the monitoring equipment, and it was all good, but minus about $50,000 in custom-built computers to monitor the controller's performance. But the controller worked great, but all the monitoring stuff was shot.
Oopsie. That's funny.
Yeah, funny, terrifying, but thank God they're doing that kind of testing. But and then sharing that with us, we really appreciate that, Patrick. So,
yeah, man, thanks a lot.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we don't have any official sponsor this week, but if you'd like to sponsor the show, reach out to those fine folks over at backbeatmedia.com and talk to them about becoming a sponsor. We'd love to have you. And if you wanted to write to us, questions, comments, rude remarks, send the rude remarks to who?
Well, send the rude remarks to sticks@sothereiwas.us.
Yeah.
All the questions, the ones that are easy to answer, send that to fig@sothereiwas.us or repeat@sothereiwas.us. But the hard ones, they need to go to Sticks.
Absolutely. Make it work for it.
He's just wicked smart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he makes us look, well, I won't say it. Hey, one other thing we want you to do, please. Get on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Threads or whatever your social media preferred outlet is, and tell your friends about your favorite episode of our show and get them hooked like you are.
Yeah, share the show.
We are growing, but we need you to share the show. That's right.
Share the show. Please share the show.
Just once to 50 people or 100 people. Be annoying about it. Oh, man. I think we should talk ever so briefly about our guest this week. Oh, and next. We're going to break it up into 2 shows because we went about 2 hours with him. He's
got a lot of good
fast.
stories, man.
He does have a lot of good stories.
He's done a lot of things. He's got a lot of good stories. Yeah. Taco Bell.
He was a C-130, Marine C-130 aircraft commander.
Marine KC-130.
Marine KC-130. Yep. And retired lieutenant colonel, United States Marine Corps. And he opens up with a story that I don't want to spoil, but that's where we got this week's title from.
It's a good story. It's a really good story. As a matter of fact, he had me guessing halfway through the story if it was, how it was going to end. And I thought I knew how it was going to end. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, strap in for that one. It's a good one. Then he talks about spending some time in Okinawa, crawling through some caves, finding remains of soldiers in caves from the World War II era. Oh my God! And nasty, creepy crawlies falling all over him. Right. Why did it have to be spiders? That's all I got to say.
Right. And then Iwo Jima. He was lucky enough to get to fly to Iwo Jima and go through Iwo Jima at the memorial. As part of a memorial for the Iwo Jima annual memorial. That was very unique experience.
He has spent a good bit of his life dedicating himself into service of those who have either received the Medal of Honor or veterans in general. I mean, it isn't just limited to those guys, but he has clearly spent a lot of time and a lot of effort in service to veterans. So thank you for that, Taco.
Yeah, well, he's a special dude.
Then we had a new theme this week.
New theme.
What is it? It seems they come in waves. Last week we had a guy with a Fokker 100 story.
Right. And so, yeah, there's another Fokker 100 story. At least we're not killing livestock like we were for a while there. We were killing livestock every episode.
Exactly. That was terrible.
That's another terrifying Fokker 100 story.
I'll tell you what. I think we should get out of the way.
Let's get out of the way.
and let him tell some of these stories. Thanks for your patience, everybody, for listening to this long intro. You're going to enjoy Taco. Until next week.
Don't sit on the ejection seat anymore.
Smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond.
So there I was. I was over the North Atlantic. We were flying from Mildenhall, England, up to Keflavik, Iceland. And we're about 200 miles outside of Keflavik. And we get this call on guard. And it's like this: Marine tanker on guard, Spade 16, how copy? And everyone's up there just jaw-jacking, talking. As they continue talking, the FO, the co-pilot, I'd gotten out of the seat. The AC had gotten back in. Aircraft Commander had gotten back in the left seat. I'd been riding in the left seat. He was back sleeping. He comes up, taps me on the shoulder, says, hey, get out of the seat. And I'm like, yes, sir. So I get out. My buddy, let's just call him Tony, is sitting in the right seat. And the guy goes, Marine tanker, on guard, Spade 16, how copy? And everyone's still talking. Tony goes, shh. Hey, did you guys hear that?
Hear what?
And everyone got kind of quiet for a second. And you hear, Marine tanker, on guard, Spade 16, how copy? And Tony jumps on the radio and goes, hey, Spade 16, you got Otis 23, go ahead. And Bernie, the aircraft commander, turns to me and turns to him and says, I got this. I got this. Don't worry about it. Hold on a second. Hey, Spade 16, come up 343.2, whatever, and switch. And so he switches freak, and he goes, hey, Spade 16, you got Otis 23, what can we do for you? And the guy's like, oh my God, are we so glad to see you. We're up here, we're F-14, we're on cap, and we lost our INS's dumped, and we need a DF steer back to Keflavik, and can you guys spare some gas? We're like, what? And anyway, he turns around, looks at Navigator. Hey, how far do we have to go? How much gas can we give? And so he comes up with the number, and the engineer, everyone's kind of getting together, doing their stuff. Engineer leans over and he goes, hey, sir, I hate to tell you, but the number 2 basket is the helo basket, and the number 1 basket is written up as bad. And he goes, well, this is an emergency situation. This guy needs gas, so we'll just give it a try. And he goes, they figured out how much gas we can push, and they call him up and they tell him come up on, left stabilized, and the engineer gets to work, and he starts putting the hose out, and the airplane yaws to the left as the single hose comes out. Yeah. You got that 27-inch diameter basket, 85-foot hose, and it kind of pulls the airplane to the left. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm a single lieutenant back in the 90s, and I had bought a slim cam VHS recorder, and I had taken the headsets and reversed them as like microphones up into my headset, so I can record the conversations going on, the ICS and the radios. Well, as I'm filming this, I'm really excited. I'm getting like friggin' the news I'm going to be on the news when I sell this thing.
Film at 11.
Yeah, film at 11, exactly. Marine tanker saves this Navy F-14 that was out there. So as I'm filming this, and I'm filming Tony's talking the guy through, hey, call left stabilized, roger. Okay, cleared to plug. And the guy plugs and the airplane moves a little bit. It was like, okay. Well, I pause for a second and I go look out the left window by the galley, and I don't see a hose out. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I come back and I'm turn the film back on, and I look at the engineer and I go, there's no hose. What the hell? And he just looks at me and says, shh. And so I'm like, okay, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to continue filming. And
I'm in on the joke now.
all of a sudden you hear the guy in the back, the Lance Corporal, sitting on the crew seat looking out the paratroop door, and he goes like, hey, sir, this thing's spitting a lot of fuel. They got a bad plug. And the engineer says, hey, sir, I told you that plug's shitty. It was written up. And he goes, yeah. So Bernie gets on there, and he's got this real heavy accent, and he's like, hey, Spade 1-6, pull out, and we'll try to readjust the holes and try it again. And so the guy's like, roger that. Well, as he unplugs, he goes, unplugging, and all of a sudden the guy in the back goes, holy shit, sir, it is spewing a ton of gas right down that guy's intake. And then, then you hear the F-14 pilot go, Mayday, we're on fire! We're on fire! Eject! And Tony's in the right seat, and his eyes are about this big. Bernie looks to the left, pulls his glasses off, looks out, looks back out, and goes, holy shit, mark this position. And the navigator's doing his stuff, and the loadmaster, hey, get on the radio, call Keflavik on the HF. Tell him that that F-14 just went down, blah, 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 blah. And the guy's like trying to call Keflavik on the HF, and we're doing a turn. We're starting to turn. Well, there was a cloud deck maybe 1,000, 2,000 feet below us. And he goes, hey, where'd he go? Oh, that F-14 went through the cloud deck, sir. It was like, holy shit. So we spin it around, and you can't see anything. There's no smoke, no jet, nothing. And we're coming around, and we're doing our stuff. And so we start talking about what can we do for these guys. We could throw the rafts out. If we got down low enough over the water, we could open up the ramp and tail and throw the 7-man raft out because they're over the North Atlantic, and it's cold. You know, there's no way these dudes would last more than 15 minutes, even in the poopy suits. And as we're sitting there flying along, all of a sudden the ELT goes off. And you hear the ELT going off. It's like, holy shit, these guys are in the water now, you know, because it's saltwater activated. And now we're talking about, okay, how much gas do we have? And how low is this cloud deck? I mean, can we descend not knowing altimeter, and how long before you could impact the water? I mean, there were a lot of what ifs. So we're going through all the scenarios. And finally, Bernie looks at everyone and goes, guys, and he's just dead serious. He says, look, we got an issue here. We gave these guys gas on a bad hose, right? So now when we get back, we're going to get fee-nabbed. They're going to take our wings away. Now, I've been flying for a long time. I'm a passed-over major. It doesn't matter to me. But he looked at Tony and he goes, you and Taco, you guys, you're brand new lieutenants in the fleet. You guys, you're never going to fly again. You're going to go be a comm officer or something, you know. Just, I don't know. I just don't know. And everyone got kind of silent. And the warrant officer navigator, who was an instructor for the young guy, he comes on the ICS and goes, what are you suggesting, sir? And Bernie goes, you know what? I hate to say it. Fuck them. They were going to die anyway. And everyone's eyes kind of got big. And he goes, I'm telling you, these guys were going to lose, you know, run out of gas. They were going to crash out in the middle of the North Atlantic. They'd freeze their balls off and die of exposure. So, you know, why should we lose our careers over a couple jet?
Yeah, fuck those guys.
Jet guys. Fuck them. Fuck those guys. And so it goes through the crew, right? There's about 12 of us because there's a training flight. And he goes through the crew from the lowest Lance Corporal up to finally the 2 lieutenants and the captain. And he goes, we're taking a vote, all right? We'll take a vote on this. And everyone has to be in agreement. We have to be in 100% agreement. If there's one guy that says, I don't agree with this, then you know what? We'll go to Keflavik and we'll fess up and we'll take our punishment. But otherwise, you know, it's going to be, we'll just say it never happened. And somebody gets on the radio. I think it was the loadmaster's like, sir, you know, we're going to be up there for 2 weeks. That's going to be really tough to read that in the base newspaper, and the wife and the kids don't know what happened to their spouse, and they just disappeared over the North Atlantic. And he goes, it's like freaking UFOs, boys. Shit happens all the time. I mean, those guys just disappear. People disappear all the time. And in South America, you don't know where they go. They just disappear. And so it gets up, you know, Lance Corporal Smuckatelli. I say, we go on, sir. Lance Corporal Smith, sir, press on. Corporal Press on, sir. Sergeant, butthole. Press on, sir. Staff sergeant, butthole. Press on, sir. And it gets all the way up. And he goes, Taco. And I'm like, sir, this is a really hard decision that you're putting on us as final. He goes, well, we're officers. We lead the pack. So what is your decision? And I said, yeah, press on. And so he looks at Tony and he goes, Tony, what about you? And Tony, you got to understand, is this big dude from Iowa. I mean, huge guy, nationally ranked kickboxer. And Tony looks at him, and I mean, there are daggers in his eyes, right? And he looks at me like, you spineless son of a bitch. And he just is so mad. And he looks at me like, it was like, come on, man, help me. And I just looked at him and I go,
you're giving the signal, goes, press on.
Press on. And Tony just crosses his arm. He doesn't look at him. He looks straight ahead out of the cockpit and he just goes. So on we go, right?
For the listeners, he's given the press ahead signal, straight ahead.
Yeah, I'm giving straight ahead. Keep going. And Tony is sitting there and he's steaming. And the entire crew is quiet. There's not a word spoken. And Bernie looks over and goes, you know what, Tony, I can sense a little tension. Why don't you get out of the seat and put Taco in the seat? And Tony undoes the release and the seat slams back. And as he's about to get out, Bernie reaches over and grabs him and goes, Tony, welcome to Herx. That was just a drill. There was no F-14. And he's like, what? And everyone's like, congrats, man. They're all patting him on the back. And then, he's thinking, they're lying to me, man. They're trying to get me to, feel better about it. And then they're just like, no, dude, we do this to every nugget. You just happened to be in the seat. Mitch was in the left. You were in the right. You had to bite the bullet. Sorry about that. And then he goes, dude, it sounded so real. And then all of a sudden you hear the guy in the back puts his oxygen mask on and goes, hey, Marine tanker, this is Spade 1-6. Hey, do you think you could send some pizzas down here? It's kind of cold, And so we start laughing. He goes, but what about the ELT? Well, they took an ELT out of the May West.
Survival radio?
They put it in test mode, survival radio, and they hit it. And that's what gave off over the radio.
Gosh.
So they can hear on the guard frequency of the locator.
My God. So,
and that is how all great aviation tales begin, and in this case ends. Practical joke played on the first officer. Oh, even better. Okay, hold on. We'll get to it. Hey, everybody, repeat here. We have with us a special guest tonight. We got to tell you no one even knows who you are yet. So repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire, Cohurst Fig.
Hanging out here in Kearney, Missouri for a couple more days. It is our pleasure to introduce to you Taco. And that is a great story, Taco. Finish the story, bro.
It's awesome. Finish it, man. It gets better.
Well,
how does it get better?
It gets better.
That's awesome.
Because Tony goes, at first I thought you guys were just screwing with me. That I thought you're screwing with me. This really did happen. You're trying to assuage my feelings or whatever. And he goes, oh, no. Let me tell you about old Harry Larry. Larry runs into the SDO office there in Keflavik when we got there. And he runs in and he goes, hey, you guys, I have the coordinates where this F-14 crashed. You got to go out and save them, blah, blah, blah. And the SDO looks at him and says, I'm sorry, say again, sir. And he goes, this F-14 was trying to refuel off of us, and it blew up over the ocean, and the guys ejected and all this. And Bernie happened to be the AC, and he's walking up, and he goes, don't worry, boys, we got him. It's okay. And the guy behind the desk is like, what? Sir, we don't have any F-14 stationed in Keflavik. You don't? No, we have F-15 Eagles, and we got P-3s. And he's like, were they off a carrier? No, sir, there's no carriers around here.
And no P3s and 15s off carrier anyway, but
that is a great story. And I mean, I thought we had some good practical jokes on lock. Those guys got it on lock.
Oh man, I tell you what, the Herc community, I love flying KC-130s in the Herc community. It was fun. We were a constant, your own road show. You had, 3 pilots normally. You had 5-6 guys in the back. You're rolling rock band,
Right.
and it was just always a good time.
So if you haven't picked up on it, folks, Taco is a Marine Aviator KC-130 pilot. And obviously he has some good stories because that's just right out of the gate.
Wow. Yeah. Boom. Likes what he do. So speaking of what you do, how long have you been flying and how'd you get into it there,
my
Taco?
uncle was at F-14 Rio with the Pukin Dogs, 143 out of Virginia Beach. So it was my mom's brother, and he was a Rio there, but larger than life. This guy was 6'7".
Holy shit!
They called him Big Bird. Yeah, he was huge to fit in the back of that shoehorned him in the back of an F-14. But he owned a Cherokee 140, so as a kid he would take me flying, and I just always wanted to be a pilot. So that was it.
Yeah.
And then I got my first commercial airline ride in '71. And my aunt was a gate agent for American, so I was on a 7-2 shorty from DCA to Knoxville, and the flight attendant or stewardess back then goes, "Hey, little boy, you want to go sit in the cockpit?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I sat up there, and the pilot, had the big Ray-Bans on. They had their JEPS charts hanging over the visors.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They're sitting there smoking cigarettes. And, my parents smoked, so as a young kid, that didn't matter. Engineer gave me a cookie. I sat in the cockpit the whole way to Knoxville, and then after that, what do you want to be? I want to be an airline
I
pilot.
want to be a pilot.
So I set my goals,
Why
and
the hell wouldn't you?
that was it.
They didn't give you a cigarette?
Yeah. Here,
What the
kid,
hell?
here's a smoke. Hey, Johnny, you ever seen a grown man
Like
naked?
Gladiator
You ever been
movies.
inside a Turkish prison? Yeah, you like gladiator movies, Johnny? Yeah. Hey,
Right.
you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh, man.
Picked the wrong week. Quit sniffing glue.
No, so it was always good. But you know what? I don't have it with me. I got a bunch of junk behind me, but I have a 727 panel. Were you guys engineers by chance?
I was, but only on the McDonnell Douglas
No, I-
DC-10.
All right. How about you, Frank?
I never flew a Boeing until 3 years ago.
Oh,
I
if
went
it
to
ain't
the
Boeing, I
777.
Now he'll tell you he's
I
a
can't
much
spell
better
Boeing. I can't
pilot
spell
now than he's
VNAV.
flying Boeing aircraft.
Yeah, because if you fly an Airbus, takes a good pilot, makes him average, and takes an average pilot, makes him good.
That's right.
Yeah, you got to be on your toes. I got what?
I'll tell you what, it was a hard transition at 59 years old to go from flying McDonnell Douglas airplanes for 32 years to switch over to Boeing. It is a different mindset. It's like, oh, wait, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah,
That's
I flew
stupid.
the 80, and it was like a 57 Chevy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. I love McDonnell
Well,
Douglas
when I was a brand new
But,
engineer on the
hold on.
panel, I used to wear the engineer hat, like a train engineer hat, the black and white thing. And so I'd sit in the seat, do my stuff, and I would have the hat on, and kids and people would come on, and some people would get it. "Oh, you're the engineer." I'm like, "Yeah." And then one day this lady comes up from first class, the captain, the FO, they're up getting coffee, and she goes, "Excuse me, can I use the lavatory?" And I looked over, and the cockpit door had rubber band that would go around it, and the lav door was right there.
Yeah.
If nobody was in the lav, you put the rubber band, because if not, the door would swing shut. The airplanes were so bent. Well, I looked down. The lav is obviously empty because of the rubber band holding the door open. So I opened the fuel dump panel, which is on the wall adjacent to the bathroom. And I open it up, and I look in the fuel dump panel. I go like this, and I go, "No, ma'am, it's empty. Go ahead." And so she goes inside the lav, and she's in there for about a minute. The door goes occupied, and then she comes right back out, and she goes, "Is that a one-way mirror in that lab?" And I go, No, it's not." And she goes, "Well, then how did you know it was empty?" And I go, "Ma'am, I just knew." And she goes, "I want to see what you're looking at." I'm like, "I'm sorry, ma'am, FAA rules, you're not allowed in the flight deck." And then she got red. I mean, like, your shirt started creeping up her neck, and I realized, you know what? I'm on probation. That was actually pretty stupid. Maybe. I go, "You know what, ma'am? I'm just teasing. Come on in." And so she comes in, and I open up the fuel dump panel, and I said, "Go ahead and look." So she looks in there, and she goes, "We can't see anything. It's a bunch of switches and dust." And I go, "Yeah, no, you can't see anything." "Well, then how did you know it was empty?" I go, "Now, I want you to step completely in the flight deck." And so she steps in, and the door goes, "Koosh," and shuts. So now we're locked in there. And I said, see the rubber band on that handle? She goes, yeah. And I go, the door does that. So to keep the door open, we put it around the lav. If nobody's in the lav, I keep the rubber band on there. That's how I knew. And she thought that was the funniest thing. She turned out to be the vice president of operations for Burger King. And she gave me a stack of free Whopper coupons, good for anywhere, redeemable anywhere. And so I'm like going through Miami Airport. Hey, I get a Whopper, please.
That's great.
So it pays to have a little bit of sense of humor.
Well, yeah.
Just a wee bit. And you guys didn't know what you're going to get, did you?
Oh, Taco, this is great.
Beautiful. So, well, let me mention it. Those who want to hear more of these stories, although you tend to bring other folks along and talk about their stories, Taco has a show of his own on YouTube and Facebook, Tall Tales with Taco, and you do that on on Taco Tuesdays.
Sometimes I'll tape them. If I'm not available that night, I won't be live. I'll just tape them. Then StreamYard allows you to play it live. But yeah, it started out as a hobby with COVID. It was VJ Day, and I got on my phone. Facebook had just started this about 3 years ago with the Facebook Live. And so I called a couple World War II guys I knew. And I basically interviewed them over the phone on Facebook Live. Excuse me. And somebody says, hey, you need to start a podcast. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell a podcast is. And anyway, I started a podcast. So my first guest was Scott Gibson, who played Major Haldane in Band of Brothers, or not Band of Brothers, I'm sorry, Scott, the Pacific. Yeah. He was E.B. Sledge's company commander. And he's a buddy. He's a Canadian. He's a buddy of mine. And so I called him up and said, hey, would you be my first guest? And he goes, yeah, sure, Taco. So I had him on. Then I had Dale Dye, who you've seen in all the movies, and military advisor. And he has his company. And Dale was my second guest. And my third guest was Don Graves, Iwo Jima vet. And then it just kind of went from there. Just whoever I find interesting, I want to talk to and just shoot the shit.
Yeah, I watched yours with all the guys that actually did the flying in the original Top Gun movie.
Oh yeah, that is one of my.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great one. Yeah, that was a great show.
It's crazy. There was a guy over in the UK who has this Top Gun fan club site, and we had gotten a hold of a bunch of these Top Gun guys that were original bros from Top Gun that were in the movie. And then what we did was on May 16th, we did this entire day. It was 6.5 hours of podcasting, 5 shows back to back, and with a 15-minute break in between.
That's brutal.
And so one thing you learn when you use StreamYard, when you send the invite link, and then you send a link to the show, you have to make sure you specify this is only for you. So what one of the guys did was send it out to God and creation, and all of a sudden down in the bottom I have 400 people trying to get into in the green room, trying to get onto the show. It was funny. I'm like, kick out, kick out, kick out, kick out. But no, that was a blast. Talk to all those guys that were in the original shows.
That was a good show.
As a matter of fact,
I watched was good. Actually, it's a couple hours long, I think.
Yeah.
It was that. I think that was just an hour and a half.
I was painting.
So if you go on Tall Tales with Taco Bell, it's it was about each one was about an hour and a half. I mean, I had Viper, the original, Viper, Admiral Pettigrew, and got Hollywood and Jambo. Got all those guys. All those guys were just phenomenal. And then we did a Top Gun deal out in San Diego for the last 2 years. They all came. So we had this year we had old original 86 cast member, or not cast members, but pilots. And then we had Ferg Ferguson and all those guys in the new Maverick. So it was really neat to get their input on how they filmed both movies from 86, where there was no CGI. All that stuff was no kidding film. As corny as people can say Top Gun is, the dialogue or whatever, those flying scenes are by far
the aerial photography was off the charts.
And
right. up to that point.
Yeah, never been. The only time it had been done, I would say, would be the Final Countdown.
Oh, right. Yep.
There was a little bit of that.
Yeah,
in
the
there.
Final
Yep,
Countdown
absolutely.
had some.
But not to the degree that it was in Top Gun. Obviously.
Clay Lacey, some of the aerial photography, the stuff that they had, the cameras mounted on their Heater Heatley, who,
I have his book.
you know,
Yep, I have that book. Yep.
dude, all of
There
us
you go.
our age,
Yep.
we grew up on this diet and Top Gun. I mean, you know what? How many times when you were in college, when that movie came out, all right, in 86, I joined in February of 86. My OSO was Captain David Berger, since retired Commandant Berger. And I joined in February of 86. In May, Top Gun comes out.
Right.
I see him in September, and he goes, I tell you what, Bill, you're damn lucky. I'm like, what's that, sir? And he goes, because after that movie came out, your sorry ass, your 2.8 history major would be a truck driver right now.
Right. What's the name of that truck?
He goes, I'm turning away. Yeah. What's that truck driving school?
Truck Masters?
He goes,
Truck Masters.
Truck Masters, 1-800 Truck Masters. Yeah, he goes, man, I'm turning away 3.8 double E engineering majors from Virginia Tech, and I was like, hey, sir, I'd rather good than
That's
lucky
right.
any day. Lucky
we're
than
the
good
team.
any day.
We were the you
Better
and I
be
are
lucky than
in the
good.
same
That's right.
Time zone, Taco, because I signed my contract to go to the PLC program in December of '85. You know, that movie came out in April of '86, and I went to OCS in
May 16th of 86.
And I went in June of '86 to Officer Candidate
Yeah.
School. So I was already, I'd already signed. I was already in before the movie came out. And of course, I don't know how it was for you. I saw you were at Camp Upshur guy. I was at Charlie Company there at Brown at Mainside. Was that Brownfield?
Main side.
Yeah, main side. Yeah.
I was
Brownfield.
candidate Top Gun,
Brownfield,
along
yeah.
with the other 50 guys that were PLC Air candidate Top Gun. Right. Well, candidate Top Gun.
Oh, God, yeah.
Drop down and give me.
Yeah, my mama wants to fly jets. Yeah. You know what's funny before OCS? I got nowhere to go. My mama wants to fly jets, mayonnaise. You know, before going to boot camp, I don't know about you, but before going to boot camp, you want to watch something. Well, of course, Full Metal Jacket wasn't available for us. And I watched the DI with Jack.
Yeah.
So,
Or as my wife called heavy metal jacket. Like, no.
Full Metal Jacket. You know, it was Officer and Gentleman, and it was the DI with Jack something. Anyway, those two movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. From
those were the
Dragnet.
only two like
Jack.
DI centric movies to watch. To hey, what's boot camp like? Now you can get on YouTube. You can watch the DIs yelling at them and doing all that stuff. Takes all the mystique away out of it.
So
Although Full Metal Jacket was pretty realistic.
I saw
Jack Webb. That's
Jack
what it was.
Webb. Nice job, repeat.
Yeah. Just the facts.
So I saw you.
Just the
you
facts,
had, you
Vic.
sent some pictures, and one of them was: Did you get a ride, a backseat ride in a?
We got a C-130 guy here with us who's broken the sound
Was
barrier.
that a backseat of an RF-4?
What's up with that?
Yeah, no, it was an Air Force R4D.
How the hell?
No, not R4D, F4D.
How?
It was.
How does this work? How?
Well, first of all, the answer is no unless you ask, right? And you know, back in flight school, it started with that. I was dating the niece of the LSO over at VT-21, a guy named Shattuck Tuck.
Hey, you know what?
And he goes,
he works at the same company I do, and we're based in the same domicile.
No way. Listen, send me his information, and I want his information. So he goes, you know, how are your grades? And we're sitting there talking about stuff. And when I selected, there were 20 of us, right? And they go, it's based off your grades. Wait, what was it? 3 things, right? Based off your grades, based off the needs of the Marine Corps, and what you want. That was the 3 things, giving you the middle finger as the final solution. And so the number 1 guy, Andy Dingy, who was a Harrier guy,
I know him.
he put
Dingy,
jets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and Andy got
We
Harriers,
know him.
and then number 2 guy, I cannot remember his name, went helo, because all he ever talked about was being a Cobra guy and swacking dudes. And then I was number 3, and I put props, jets, helos, and then no matter what, down below, everyone They had one jet slot, one prop slot, the rest were helo. So just by the fortune of gods, I got C-130s. Well, my grades were okay, but not super jet grades. I'm not going to blow up my chest. That I wasn't even close. I had 2 downs. I had an academic down and a flight down. So I'm not a stud by any means. Oh. And but I worked my ass off and did well through BIs, RIs, and FAMs, forms, PAs, and all that. But the offer to go fly in the back of a TA-4 at VT-21 was way, I just couldn't pass that up. And so he said, take leave for a week in October. I'll get you on the Lex and we'll go hit the boat. So I go out there, drive from Corpus. I take leave for a week. I still have the leave chit that was signed by everyone up to the squadron CO, and it says, prop appreciation ride in the back of a TA-4 to the USS Lexington, request permission to do this. And I go out there every single day, drive to Kingsville, nice. And every day I'm getting kicked off the seat. I do the whole brief. I could recite that brief by memory. The lead safe, or whatever it was. Lead safe? Yeah. You're the lead safe. We're going to be the lead safe. We're going to have 4 students, blah, blah, 4 chicks, blah, blah, blah. We're doing this, this, and this. And if any of you guys bolter more than twice, we're going to have to escort you back. And I get kicked off the seat every time. And at the very last day, the CO walks up, looks at my name on the schedule and goes, who's this Bell guy? And I'm sitting over there and I raise my hand and he goes, who are you? And I'm like, sir, I'm at VT-31. I'm a flight student going C-130s and I just wanted to go fly in a jet, see what I'm missing. And he goes, go ahead, take the seat. So I run down Paraloft. They get me all rigged out. I get a couple I love me shots in front of the jet. Go fly out there. We take the 4 jets out, and each guy does their deal. And now the last guy comes in, and he bolters. So as he's coming around, and it wasn't Shattuck. Shattuck ended up getting me another guy. I was in the backseat of another guy, some lieutenant. We got right on that guy's, on the student's wing, and we flew downwind with him, and then turned, and then came back, and they called the ball, 2.2, Roger ball, whatever. And we came in right down the guy, flying formation with him all the way down. He didn't even know we were there. We were right tucked in. Yeah. And when that guy caught the wire, we went down the side of the ship, came up, and then they put us in the marshal to come in to land. Well, he goes, hey, make sure that your seat harness is locked. And I go, oh, okay, great. And I had a 300 zoom lens camera on my Canon FTB that I took photos with. So I put everything away, and you had that big giant gyro, and you had the ice spitting pieces of ice at me, and it was like, God. Yeah. And we come in over the deck, and I remember, I go, wow, look how fast, obviously you get a sensation of speed. And I see the deck apes right as we go over the end of the aircraft carrier. And that's when we caught the wire. And, dude, I had whiplash for 2 weeks. Right. I'm like flying in my King Air, and I'm going, yeah, 3 down and locked. I could have turned my neck, saved my life. But that was awesome. Yeah. But then fast forward, in December of 92, we picked up a mission to go to Hawaii. And nobody wanted to go because it was December, right before, our airplanes broke down.
Yeah, no one wants to go to Hawaii in December.
Yeah, but not right before Christmas.
Yeah, there's the rub.
There was only like maybe 5 single guys out of 30 pilots. So guess which 3 single dudes were on the airplane flying out there. Me, right. Paul Gomez, and Harry Larry. And we go out to Honolulu. Well, Larry, I flew the first day on Tuesday, and on Sunday we did the mission brief with these F4 guys. They were from Tricor Company out of the Mojave Desert, and they had F4s from the Air Force with probes welded to the side of the aircraft. So we, on Tuesday, gave these guys gas at like 25,000 feet. And in Vietnam, they talk about having to toboggan the F4s because they were so heavy they would stall out of the basket. Well, these guys are slick wing. All they had was a big drone in the center tank, down the center line of the F4. They got the gas, and the guy pulls up on the right side of my C-130, right off the wing. And he goes, "Hey, is that you, Taco?" And I'm like, "Yeah, is that you, Dick?" And he goes, "Yeah, I thought you wanted to go for a ride because on Sunday I said, hey, Dick, any chance I get a ride in the back of a F4?" And he goes, I don't know, insurance or whatever. I'm not sure. I'm like, okay, just wanted to ask. And so he's sitting right off my wing. And first of all, the AC goes, "Hey, could you tell that guy to move away from the plane, his jet away from the plane?" Because he was really close. And I said, "Hey, could you do me a favor and back up?" Yeah, there's the F4. And it says experimental up there, if you look.
Yeah.
Up under the canopy. It says experimental.
Oh, okay. I'm playing a picture. I put a picture up for those watching on YouTube.
Yeah, it's got a big drone in the bottom of it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it does. Okay.
And so I said,
Nice.
yeah, I want to go fly with you. And he says, well, on Thursday, we got 2 empty seats. So you bring another Marine over with you. We'll put you in the back of the F4s. And I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome. Well, of course, Larry, since I flew on Tuesday, Larry had to fly on Thursday. So he was a bit upset. He couldn't go. And I ended up taking Mike Aldridge, one of my Lance Corporals, in the back. No seat training. He had no seat training. I did. I had all my seat quals because I went from Pensacola to Corpus, so you had to get all your seat quals. Yeah, there's a shot I took from the back of the F4. It had pretty good viz for the plug because it was welded and extended up by the pilot.
Yeah.
And so we're refueling off of my Herc.
The plug means the probe that hit the refueling basket. Yeah, I'm showing that on YouTube now as well.
It's a 27-inch diameter basket that gets into the airflow and just hangs there. And we were notorious, I hate to admit, and Fig, you guys both probably endured the wrath of a bad hose where it gets to the sine wave. You plug in, you get the sine wave, and if you don't get backed out quick enough, that thing will rip your probe right off, and we come home to Cherry Point or whatever with a probe dragging off of our chute. But that deal, man, that dude, we went up to 50,000 feet, and so we're at 50,000 feet, 2 F4s, opposite headings, and we're doing Mach 1.3, and then they've got a Learjet up flying over us, and he's got all these telemetry cameras and all. They've got crews in there that do their specialized deals. And we launched these 2 drones. The drones go up to 80,000 feet, and then they come down on this Aegis-class cruiser. I want to say it was a Shenandoah. And the drones come down at like Mach 8, and they do their defense stuff. So after we shoot, we are both 180s and get the hell out of Dodge because they're shooting shit up to destroy the drone. Well, as we do the turn, he climbs up to 53,000. And it was really hard to breathe. It was 100% forced oxygen. I just remember it being uncomfortable, very uncomfortable with the trying to talk with the oxygen being shoved in your face. And I look up, and the sky is no longer blue. It was black. I couldn't see stars or anything. It was just black. And I looked down, and all the big cumulus thunderstorms that were down over the ocean and around the area, they looked really small. And out of the blue, his name is Dick Lawyer. So if you go Google Dick Lawyer Aviator, his obituary will come up. And his obituary is wild. Years later, I found this out. We're sitting there, and I can see the back of his helmet. And his head is just doing this, right? And it's kind of looking left and right up into the black void. And
he's looking straight up.
What the hell is this guy doing? His head, he's just looking up here, and we're at 53,000. He, out of the blue, goes, "Hey, Taco, if we lose an engine or something, don't worry about ejecting because we'll be dead." Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
Dick?
I'm in a C-130 guy. I'd never been above 25,000 feet in my life.
Right.
And the guy goes, "Yeah, above 50,000 feet, if you lose pressurization, you got to be in a spacesuit or your blood will boil."
Blood boils.
Wait a minute.
What?
And I'm going,
What?
How much longer are we going to be up here? Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Your blood boils. And so I pull my gloves off, my flight gloves, and I'm looking at my fingernails, trying to remember my physiology crap. Oh, if they turn blue, like you're getting. And I'm like, is this guy crazy or what? And then eventually we come down, and then we go refuel off our tanker. And then the ship says, "Hey, would you guys do a flyby?" And he goes, "Roger that, flyby." And they're like, "Altimeter's 3012. hard decks, whitecaps. So roger that. So the dude
Yes, it is.
the Dash 2 is behind me, or behind us right on our wing. And we're coming down,
Okay.
and we cross the front of the ship, the bow of the ship, and we climb up, turn at 2,500 feet, and then we come back down from the back of the ship. Because if you could imagine being on the ship, and we're coming up from the stern, from the back, and each F4 is below the, what do you call that, the railing, the gun line or whatever. The gun. When I look back, Dash 2 had a rooster tail off the ocean.
Oh shit!
That's how low we were.
Shit.
So when we came down the side of the ship, we were right above the ocean, right, and we come up and he goes midship. He goes 3, 2, 1, burners now, and he does that, and I'm filming with my camera. I have that skinny VHF thing. And all of a sudden it just goes, oh, and I gray out, and the airplane goes vertical, and he starts, both of them are doing aileron rolls up to 35,000.
Just fantastic.
So that was awesome. And then we level out at like 35,000. We're heading back to Barber's Point, and we're going back there, and he lets me fly, and he's like, oh, easy, big boy. Because you can't feel Mach. You can't feel that you're going faster than the speed of sound, but you get the little gauge. And he goes, oh, I'm like, what, sir? And he goes, look. Well, it turns out this dude was a friggin' secret astronaut.
What does that mean?
And
What is that? I saw that in your notes. What does that mean?
Well, when I met him, he says, hey,
astronaut?
my name is Richard Lawyer. Everyone calls me Dick. Remember, all lawyers are dicks except for me. And that's how I always remembered his name, right? It was a great intro.
Actually,
When they did the initial Mercury program, they knew they were going to transition into the Gemini, right? The 2-man capsule. So the Air Force had a secret tryout program for secret astronauts. And these guys, you know how a toilet seat costs $500, or a hammer costs $1,000? Same deal.
Right.
They were basically doing black project budgets, and they were going to have a manned orbital deal. It was called an MOL program, and it was basically a big Gemini capsule with an extended center line, and would have cameras in it, so they could launch from wherever on Vandenberg on a secret mission, fly up over Russia or whatever they wanted to photograph, take the pictures, and then come back and splash out into the ocean. So all those guys had to go through all of the training the regular astronauts went through, the spin and puke and the right stuff, all that physical stuff. Those guys did the exact same thing. But he never got to go into outer space because the program got canceled. Lockheed came out and they said, hey, we can build you this satellite with the camera better than what you could put in Gemini. And get this, it'll take all these 35 millimeter or 50 millimeter films, and it'll poop them out, and it'll have a parachute, and you can have one of your C-130s out there by Hawaii, go out there with the pincers and intercept the parachute and suck it in, develop the photographs, and there you go. So they went with that. So what happened was years later, now this is top secret, right? This program's never been declassified. And they're at,
well, thanks for telling us.
at the time, right?
Speed window.
So
Speed window.
big window. Crank call. So these guys are cleaning out bunkers at Cape Canaveral, and they come across a hidden bunker that had never been opened in years. What? They open this bunker up, and they see all these Gemini spacesuits in it with all these jackets on all the pilots and information. And they found Dick Lawyer. Well, I guess the other guys were dead. And they called Dick Lawyer up, and they go, hey, sir, we found your spacesuit here at Cape Canaveral, your Gemini spacesuit. How do you have a Gemini spacesuit? Because we know who the astronauts were. Why were all you guys in this bunker? And he was like, I can't tell you. I don't know what you're talking about. And they're like, sir, this program has been declassified. And he goes, gentlemen, I still don't know what you're talking about. And they go, sir, do you have a fax machine or anything that we can send you the declassification of this program? And he goes, yeah, there's a machine You can fax it to me, and they fax him the copy of the declassification. And he goes, yeah, I was in that program. And they're like, no kidding, what was it? So they start talking about it. You know what? He never told his wife. How's that for keeping a secret? Yeah, he never told his wife.
You go.
Weird. Captain Royce Williams. Same kind of deal.
Yeah.
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 I never shot down.
Not a
50
word.
years,
So-
not a word.
Maybe 5 MiGs over Korea. Nope, wasn't me. Wasn't even there. Huh. Weird. No, it never happened.
Yeah.
It didn't
Wow,
happen.
that is
But
a
anyway,
good
that
story.
was cool. Cool story. Different.
That is
So that's how I
incredible.
got an F4
Well,
ride,
that's pretty awesome.
Mach
Dude.
1.3, 53,000 feet. So that was another prop appreciation deal.
Well, that's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah.
Now you
No
you
kidding.
were let's see
No kidding.
two. Yeah,
He was at Cherry Point same time we were. We never ran into each other.
There I was.
yeah. So there I was. I knew it was coming.
So there I was at the Dirty Shame. No. Friggin' our buddy Curly.
Yeah.
All right.
Our buddy Curly.
We've had Curly on,
Vicious.
a vicious pack of lieutenants.
That was an awesome show. That's what I tell all my friends. You got to watch that one. Curly was bringing some. There was a 2-ship, and they're going to an air show, and they stopped in Knoxville, Tennessee, to get gas. And I had landed my Cherokee 140, which I kept up in New Bern, and I landed to visit my grandparents before I shipped off to Okinawa 2 weeks later. For a year. And so I see the Harriers land. They taxi up to the FBO, and out jumps Curly, takes his helmet off. And I'm like, hey, Curly. And I run up to him. Hey, what's up, Taco? We're sitting there shooting the shit. And this private jet pulls up to the FBO, and the door opens up, and this little bald dude comes beelining straight for us and runs over to the jets. And he goes, hey, boys. Hey, how you doing? Hey, listen, I want to ride in the back of this Harrier. And he's like, well, sir, I don't think that's possible, and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, you don't understand. All I got to do is call Bob up in, General Bob Hoover up in the Pentagon and tell him, hey, it's Jimmy Buffett. And I've flown an F-15, F-14, F-16. I want to ride in the back ever since I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger in True Lies. I want to go fly in a Harrier. And at the time, his jet was busted because it would only take fuel one side of the plane. And anyway, we ended up shooting the shit with him for, probably 45 minutes before his handlers came to get him and go, hey, Jimmy, we got to get going. The concert's tonight, Anyway, ended up going to the concert and taking my aunt with me, and that was it's kind of related. Jimmy died on Friday. What a great guy.
Yeah. God rest his soul.
Godspeed, because you know what? The interesting thing he said was, we were talking about airplanes, and I own an airplane. Jimmy owns quite a few airplanes, or had. And he says, I can't sell my airplanes. I have to basically just not destroy them, but ground them. They can't be sold. My lawyer basically told me that if anybody crashed in my airplane, they would, even though the books were cleared and it was sale, it could be a year later, they turn around and sue me and my estate and everything. So he goes, it's not even worth dealing with. So, I put my airplanes in restaurants, and, I'd ground them, donate them to people or whatever.
Yeah.
So
how about that?
Yeah, that was kind of sad. Yeah, he wasn't happy about that.
Wow. Who would be?
And what's funny is I
Jeez.
sent Curly a message. I go, hey, Curly, do you remember this? I remember it was you. We were in Knoxville. And he goes, no, I don't recall that at all. And then I look back in my daytimer, and sure enough, April 7th of 1994, it says TYS with PA 28140, Curly and student breakdown in Knoxville.
Curly. So Curly was,
And I'm like,
Curly was in flying out of 203 as an instructor about that time. Is that right? Repeat.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. He was.
So
Yeah. And TYS is the McGee Tyson Airport identifier.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
In Knoxville, Tennessee. So, yeah. And Styx is actually on YouTube. He tells us, I'm going to back off to another story ever so briefly, that Richard E. Lawyer's story is on Wikipedia.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
It's now famous. Now it's now more than famous. It is infamous. But yeah. So sorry for that brief diversion. So yeah. So Curly and McGee Tyson.
So you went.
Oh, that's awesome.
You went to Okinawa.
That's a great
94.
Yeah. So when I was over there, the Westpac guys, we did a lot of hash runs. We'd go out there and go run the hash runs around Okinawa, drink a bunch of beers, and sing Irish songs afterwards. Oh, it was a blast.
Nice.
I loved the year over there. We used to go digging for dead Japs. That was.
So let's talk about that. How does that work? You wake up in the morning and go,
yeah.
So,
yeah. One day I decided I'm gonna go dig dead Japs.
Yeah.
No. There was this guy, Major Fitzgerald. I'm not going to say his first name, and he goes
rhymes with Jack.
Okay.
rhymes with. He goes. He's from Boston, and no shit talks like, we're at the bar in Okinawa, and he goes, hey, yeah, Harvard Yard, park the car in the Harvard Yard. Hey, skippers, what are you guys doing tomorrow? We're like, recovering from our hangover tonight, and he goes, no, you're not. Get your shit together, all right? I want you to get your web belt, get an E-tool, get a flashlight, get a hat with a bandana. You got a stick or anything? I'm like, a stick? And he goes, yeah, you're going to need a stick. Stick for what? For the banana spiders. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, we're going hunting for dead Japs tomorrow. And I'm like, what do we do if we find said dead Japs? And he goes, oh, man, this place littered with them. Don't worry about it, Skipper. What we do is we find them, and then we turn them into the Japanese. They'll go retrieve the bodies. I go, why don't they go look for them? He goes, well, you don't understand the culture. All right, so they would grow the fingernails long, the hair long. They would cut it all up, mail it home to Mama, and then if they died or whatever, never found the bodies, well, then they had a little piece of them, right? So they just bury that. They're satisfied with that. They don't give a shit about the rest of the body. They got a little bit of Johnny, And so we're like, okay. And he goes, yeah. So I got this book, right? It's written by the Army. It's all about the Battle of Okinawa. And we've been eating Texas popcorn, with hot sauce, and you're pretty good. And he's like, yeah, so I got this deal, right? We're going to drive down. Well, what time do we need to meet? 4 a.m. 4 a.m. Sir, shit, it's 11 o'clock. Yeah, that's because the traffic's light at 4 a.m. So, and the heat. I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah, sunrise, like 5:15. So, we got to leave at 4, drive down past Naha. We'll go past Naha. We'll go drive through these farmer fuck fields. And, hey, here's the deal, too. You know what a habu snake is? Yeah, yes, sir. I know what a habu is. I watched those fight the mongoose. And he goes, yeah, listen, that's why you need the snake, the stick, too, right? So you hit any mongoose come up, you can get them away from you. I'm like, all right, so now I got to look for a stick. So we drive down, sure shit. We're driving down in one of those little minivans, the little tiny ones. And and Major F, minivan, Major F is up there navigating. He's like, all right, turn left, turn right, turn left, turn right. And he's just guiding through these fields. And what he was doing was looking at the photographs taken in World War II. And even though the foliage was gone, just bombed out, you could still look out there at the ridge line and see the outline of the ridges that kind of matched up with the photos. And so he was driving us left, right to get to a position where the Japanese emplacements were and where the heavy battles were. And we would drive through, we'd park, and then we'd walk through some farmer's field, and you get up to the canopy, to the jungle, to the side of the mountain. And when you bust through the canopy, sure enough, man, these goddamn spiders start dropping on you. And they were banana spiders. They're big. It was like Indiana Jones, right? And stuff is dropping through, and you're hearing stuff like splat, splat, splat. And you're looking, and this thing just scurries off. You're like, what the hell was that? It was a banana spider. And I'm like, my voice goes up about 3 octaves. I can deal with snakes and stuff like that, but spiders, like friggin' tarantulas, okay. Big spiders, I don't like.
Yeah. It's one thing if they're 2 inches across.
Like black widows and stuff, I don't like those. But brown recluse, missing a hole in your head. Well, we go up, and then as we're walking along the ridgeline, once you get inside the canopy, it's open. And it's very hot and steamy. It's really hot and steamy in there. And we walk up, and we're walking along the ridgeline, And he goes, all right, right here, start digging. Get your E-tools out and start digging. So we got the E-tools out. We're the muscle. And he's directing us. He's a good major. We're the captains, and we're digging the holes. Well, sure enough, man, you dig through about 2 feet, and all of a sudden it just collapses, and it opens up into a cave. I'm like, how did you know that the cave was here? And he goes, well, see, during the war, the Marines, they didn't want to go in there and try to attack these guys. So they would just, there's the cave, there's the guy shooting at them, they got mortars, whatever. So they just throw a satchel charge. They blow up the entrance of the cave, trap these motherfuckers. I'm like, okay. Wow. And so then you keep digging, right? You got your E-tool, and you dig out a square deal where you can go in like this. You get into this cave, and you drop in, and it's black as hell. This is pitch black.
This is not a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what are you thinking?
it wasn't, we got in, you do the light, you look, but when you go in, you got to go face first, and you tumble into this thing. It was bizarre. And here's the creepy thing, like thousands.
Oh, now we're getting to the creepy
of
part.
centipedes on the ceilings. And he goes, and that's why he told me, wear a baseball hat with a bandana, and you would tuck it up on the thing and pull the baseball hat so the bandana hung over your neck, so they couldn't go down the back of your shirt. So when stuff dropped on you, it would hit that, and you could feel it, and then, hey, somebody swatted off. It didn't go down your shirt. Well, everything inside, all the metal stuff is gone, and the dead bodies are laying there, and the ribs are sticking out of the clay because over the years, the clay had kind of collapsed inside the cave. And I'm thinking, how safe is this?
Right?
There's no wood. There's nothing holding us.
Yeah,
what
what could go wrong?
We're trapped in the cave with a bunch of dead Japs. They'll find our bodies in 50 years. But it actually became very addicting to find stuff. So we would find the bodies, and we'd find little clay drinking. I've got sake glasses and things like that. You would find lenses from their gas mask. Anything rubber. There wasn't really much rubber. A little bit of the gas mask. The boots, the heels from the boots were still there. On the shelves that they had, you could see all of these round cylindrical deals, and it was the explosives from the mortar rounds that had rusted away, and it was just all explosives stacked up. So you didn't touch anything. But some of these caves were interconnected, and so you would go into the next cave, into the next cave, and they would go on for maybe 50 yards, 100 yards.
Shit.
It was amazing in the insect life that was in there. How stuff would survive, because there's nothing to eat, and I don't know what centipedes eat, but you didn't want to bump your head on the ceiling.
Dirt. Well, folks, this is somewhat of an unusual ending to one of our shows, but we do that occasionally when we have a couple hours with somebody. So we've broken Taco's show up into 2 weeks. Join us again next week as we hear more from him. We'll pick up where he went to Iwo Jima for the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Iwo Jima. He'll talk some about his experience in Iraq, and boy, is that hilarious. And that's also when we'll get into the hilarious Fokker 100 story. Hilarious, terrifying. I guess it all depends on perspective. Years later, it's funny. At the time, terrifying. Until next week, thanks for joining us. Please share the show. Stay safe and check 6. Repeat, out.
As of this moment, they're on double secret probation.